Namaste everyone. In today's video, we're going to focus on Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 1.20. In this Yoga Sutra, Muni Patanjali has explained to us what are the essential qualities that a Yoga Sadhak must have and how should one cultivate them. So let's look at the sutra and break up each of the words to understand it even further. The sutra itself goes, Shraddha Virya Smriti Samadhi Pragya Purvak Itaresham. So now that we've heard the sutra, let's start adding in the meanings of each of the words. So the first word is Shraddha, and this is a very common Indian name as well, which refers to firm faith or just having deep faith in something. The second word is known as VIRYA. VIRYA refers to vigor, enthusiasm or zeal for something. Then we come to the next word, which is talking about SMRTI. And SMRTI here is referring to the memory or a reminder of why we are pursuing a particular goal. After that, we come to SAMADHI Pragya. And over here, there are two different meanings. One is actually with reference to the word Samadhi itself, which is the eighth limb of yoga, but more commonly accepted is Samadhi Pragya, which refers to an intellectual understanding of the whole process of Samadhi and yogic practices so that you can keep moving forward. So that is Samadhi Pragya. And then we come to the last section, which is Purvak, which is talking about accompanied by. So it's trying to string all the previous words together and say all of these together. And then the last word is Itaresham. So Itaresham is referring to and others or of others. So now that we have the individual meanings of all the words, let's start understanding what this sutra stands for. So the sutra is telling us that in most cases, for the yoga sadhaks that are looking to go on their journey from scratch or that are very serious about the path, these are the four essential qualities that they need to have. Firm faith, zeal or vigor, along with a memory or a reminder of why they're doing what they're doing. And the fourth is, of course, a deep intellectual understanding of the process and why this process is important. So these are considered the four pillars or the four things that a yoga sadhak must do in order to keep moving forward. Now let's understand how is the sutra different from the previous one. So a lot of commentators have explained that in Sutra 1.18, we were talking a little bit more about the bhava pratyayas, or the yogis that have an innate ability which they've carried forward from previous lifetimes, and therefore they are a little more, they have a little bit more of that inborn talent, so to speak, which is just simply because they've carried it forward from previous lifetimes. And according to commentators, in this Sutra 1.19, we're talking more about the UPAYA pratyayas, or the people that are going to have to work hard from scratch to move forward on this path of yoga sadhana. However, I must remind you that whether we talk about bhava pratyayas or upaya pratyayas, at the end of the day, even a bhava pratyaya will have to become an upaya pratyaya and apply training and knowledge to move forward on their journey. As we discussed even in the previous sutra, it doesn't matter if you've carried a lot of great karmas from a previous birth, if you can't apply them in this birth as well and keep working hard on your journey. So ultimately, both bhava pratyayas and upaya pratyayas have to move forward through training, through sadhana and through consistent practice. Now that we've understood this, let's look at the four key words of faith, zeal, memory, as well as an intellectual understanding. Now, if you think about it from a high-level perspective, these are the four qualities that are important in any endeavor of life. If we have a firm faith and we really stand for what we're doing, only then will we be able to generate the vigor to move forward and do that in a nice way. Otherwise, we keep, having self-doubt, we keep going back on our own word, and we don't have that desire to move forward with enthusiasm because somewhere our faith is lacking a little bit. So that's why Shraddha or faith has been mentioned as the first word here, because if we have the right kind of faith, then really we can move mountains and anything becomes possible. So that's why we've chosen the word Shraddha as the first one. And then zeal, enthusiasm, determination, all of that follows from the faith or the belief in the fact that we're doing something worthwhile and we're doing what we think is goal-worthy and something that we like to pursue. After this, we've come to the word SMRTI, which is talking about memory. And I think this is also extremely important because we kind of have to keep reminding ourselves to keep going forward. I'm sure you've experienced this as well, that sometimes we do something really well, like let's say for example, we do very well on a math test, and this used to happen to me all the time. We do well on a math test and we think, wow, I'm amazing, I have got math down to the T. And then what happens is that the next test, we don't study as hard or we don't put as much effort. And so then our grades drop down again. And then you keep going through those cycles of overconfidence, lack of confidence, back to being confident, and again being overconfident. So what Muni Patanjali is trying to tell us is that in our sadhana, we have to keep that reminder or that memory alive that, hey, don't get overconfident, keep pursuing what you're doing with equal amounts of enthusiasm because the process needs that. We can't skip some steps, we can't skip ahead of ourselves. We have to go through the process the way we're supposed to. And so he's just trying to tell us that this reminder, this memory of why we're doing what we're doing, and also the fact that we don't have to get overconfident is important so we continue on the path correctly and we don't lose hope or faith by getting distracted in between. So that is why we talk about smriti or memory. And then eventually we come to the fourth subject, which is samadhi pragya. And here we're talking about this because it's important to have an intellectual understanding. So if you haven't watched our Ashtanga Yoga video, the 8 limbs of yoga, do watch that, where we explain the 8 different steps of yoga. And it's important to have that intellectual understanding of the 8 steps so that when you start practicing them, you're very clear as to why you're doing step number 1, why you're doing step number 2, and it makes sense to you, and then you can keep moving forward. Just like anything else in life, until it makes some sort of sense to us or we see the meaning in it, it's difficult to keep doing it because we'll feel like it's futile or does it even make sense. But when we see the meaning in something, and when we understand why and how it's good for us and why it's worthwhile, then we feel like doing it from a deeper space within us. And so that's what we mean by samadhi pragya, that have an intellectual understanding of the processes of yoga so that it becomes easy to continue the practice. Otherwise, what tends to happen, very honestly speaking, is a lot of us end up practicing yoga only for the physical benefits because we want to maybe lose weight or we want to solve some of our thyroid issues or therapy issues, which is also absolutely fine because yoga helps you to lose weight, to get fitter, to solve your medical ailments. It can do that. But I think the point here that Muni Patanjali is trying to make is that those are just byproducts, additional benefits that yoga provides us. But the true core essence and the very understanding of why we do yoga will only come when we take a little bit of time to intellectually understand it and study a little bit of its philosophy so that we're pursuing it for the right reasons in a way and not only for the physical benefit. Of course, if you're doing it only for physical benefit, each to their own, we have free will, we can do what we want. But also remember that samadhi pragya is important to go deeper and deeper into the practices of yoga so it makes sense to you every single step of the way. And finally, Muni Patanjali has explained that all of these 4 qualities will help us in anything that we do in life. They're just great qualities to have, and the more we cultivate them in our yoga practice, the more we'll be able to cultivate them in anything that we do in life, no matter what our profession or our field of expertise might be. So this is what Muni Patanjali says in 1.20 and helps us to understand the prerequisites for being a good or a very diligent yoga sadhak. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Please do share this video with your friends and family that are studying the Yoga Sutras or yoga philosophy and help them to understand what Muni Patanjali is trying to tell us. Also, please do subscribe to our channel to support our journey and to show us your strength and support so we feel encouraged to keep moving forward. Apart from that, please take care. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, look after yourselves and we'll see you really soon. Namaste.